Hello, 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 and welcome to all you PMOs, PMEs, POMOs, and POMEs. Welcome to The World, the podcast where we discuss all things related to the process of waking up, walking out, and moving on from life as a Jehovah's Witness. I'm Dr. Ryan Lee, a former JW with a doctorate in clinical psychology and practicing therapist. For the past 5 years, I've specialized in helping former JWs and other former cult members move through the recovery and rebuilding process. All right, so this episode is dedicated to exploring the idea that God is love. And what we're going to do is in part one, we're going to spend a little time deconstructing this idea that Jehovah is a loving God. I'm sure for most of you, it's not a shock to consider that maybe he may not be so loving. And then, in part two, we're going to spend a little bit of time exploring what a loving God might actually look like and play with the idea of how life might be different if we allowed ourselves to lightly, very lightly, believe that maybe a benevolent higher power actually exists. Or maybe it's good to just proceed as if. Okay, now first of all, I want to be really, really clear. I am not a deist by any stretch of the imagination. I definitely don't believe in any religious man-made God, period. Full stop. I don't need you to agree, and if you found a God that floats your boat, well, God bless. I'm mostly agnostic about the idea of God even in the abstract sense. I can say I feel confident that we are part of something much greater than ourselves, but that's as much as I can say with any degree of certainty. I also hold the belief that our reality is created according to our beliefs. And I'm really interested in how the stories we tell ourselves and the things we choose to believe about this world shape our experience of it. Okay, so before we dig into the meat of part one, I want to take a little detour. I'd like to ask you to take a second and really, really tune into, what does love feel like? Think about someone in your life where your feelings of love are least complicated. Maybe it's your partner, maybe a parent or grandparent or a child. May not even be a person. Could be your dog. I know there's no love less complicated than the love I have for my dog and the love that he has for me. I know exactly what that feels like. There's nothing I dislike about my dog. There's no personality quirks that I'd rather he didn't have. It's just pure love. Okay, so you got somebody in mind? Good. Now, hold that person in your mind. Feel the feeling of love you have for them. What does that feel like? Where does it sit in your body? Is it warm? Is it a dull, sweet ache? Is it gratitude, or maybe a little bit of excitement? Does the idea of this person or dog make you feel safe? Does it make you want to smile? Does it put you in a good mood? Do you miss them when they're not around? Now, because of this love you have, how does it make you want to treat them? Don't get up in your head about it. We're all imperfect, and we don't always treat the ones we love the way we should in our messier moments. But ideally, how does that make you want to treat them? Coming from this feeling of love. I know for me, if I'm thinking about my dog, it makes me want to feed him good food. I spend a little extra on this dog food that I'm not sure is any better than the lower cost stuff. But I'm told it's better for them. He seems to like it more, so I spend a little extra on him. I love to see him be curious and worry-free about the world. I take him on walks and I play with them, even when I don't always feel like it. I protect him from harm. I'm a pretty even-keeled guy. But if any other dog fucks with my dog, you will see a vicious Papa Bear energy coming out of me. I love kids, too. But the place I live in Peru, it's kind of culturally appropriate for people to throw stones at dogs. And occasionally, some kid will try throwing a stone at my dog, and I have no problem getting big and direct and letting them know that's not okay. And sometimes he'll get into the garbage or roll in a dead animal. And sure, I'll give him a good stern talking to. But I'll also be like, good for you, buddy. Doing what you love, you know? And it's so much easier to overlook shortcomings when you love somebody. Now, take this feeling of love that you have and ask yourself, is that the feeling you have toward the God you believe in or you were told to believe in? Do you have the sense that God feels that way about you? Now, I know what I'm saying is not breaking news, but I feel like it's warranted to just sit with this a little bit. Like, has anything you've ever experienced in relation to this Jehovah God, let's just keep it specific, has anything ever felt anything like love, like what we're talking about? I think it's probably safe to say that the answer is no. At best, the feeling is there's just an absence, you know? I don't know, I can't speak for you, but I know for me, I've never felt Jehovah there. I never felt him looking after me or talking to me or anything. Like he was just a non-entity. But whether you experienced it or not, let's just take it from what we're told this God is like through the Bible and through interpretation of the Bible. Okay, let's break it down. So first, fine, let's give credit where credit is due. God created life, and while it can be pretty rough sometimes, most of us will do anything to stay here. So I guess we could call the creation of humans and life a loving act. Okay, we'll give him that. That said, like a horribly abusive parent that expects love simply because they gave birth to a child, it's the bare minimum. That doesn't even feel like the bar is. It's just it is the bar is on the floor. That's the bare absolute minimum, and I'm not so sure that's even deserving of love and respect if it's not followed up by actual love and care. And just for the sake of time, let's just skip over all the design flaws that came into this creation of us. You know, things like why are we wired that our darkest shadows choose to emerge when we're suffering the most? The existence of pain, suffering, injustice, greed, violence. There's a big mess you created. But let's just put all that aside. Let's just talk about God's temperament in relation to the idea of whether he is a loving God. Let's do some of God's greatest hits from the Bible. Okay, he knows everything, creates people, then gets pissed off when they do what he knows that they're going to do, then drowns them all in a flood. He seems to need people to constantly kiss his ass. Apparently, there's a very fragile sense of self-esteem there. He kills all the firstborns of the Egyptians just to get under the skin of one pesky pharaoh. Screw those newborns. We need to send a message. Then, of course, there's Job, and, he's this loyal guy who loves God so much. But Satan makes a bet that if God starts treating him like shit, Job may not like him so much anymore. And God's like, you know what? I'll take that bet, and I'll raise you. Let's ruin his life. I'm going to murder his family. Yeah, let's see what happens. Shall I go on? I'm going to go on. Let's see what else. King David takes a census of men of fighting age. God, for some weird reason, takes issue with that, and he's like, I'll show you. And he kills 70,000 Israelites with pestilence. And then there's a bunch of one-off deaths for working on the Sabbath, premarital sex, or just being a pain-in-the-ass teenager to your parents. All of these can be punishable by death. Does any of this sound even remotely loving? I'm racking my brain here. I'm sure there's got to be some example of God doing something that feels like actual love. I got nothing. Please. There's got to be something. Let me know if you think of something. Dr. Ryan Lee at drryanlee.com. But again, I'm tripping over myself here. It is so insane to use the word love. This is a way to describe the behavior of a psychopath. Imagine somebody's like, oh, but Ryan, what about how he sent his son down to be brutally slaughtered so he could save us from the terrible scenario that he created himself. Please. No, I'm not trying to dissuade you from your own beliefs. If you got them and they're working for you, then please, skip this episode. But if you're still listening, look, I'm not saying for sure that there is no God, but can we all agree that whatever the actual truth is about God, that no one religion has it right? Can we acknowledge that there are hundreds of gods, and that the Titans were gods who were just as valid as Zeus, and the Olympians who took their place, who were just as valid as Ra, Yahweh, Shiva, Vishnu, Odin, Allah, Poseidon, Ganesha, Athena? I could go on. And I'll go one step further. Can we get on the same page that gods are pretty much made in our image, not the reverse? They tend to be a reflection of the things we happen to believe at any given moment in time. And that generally, their longevity is directly influenced by the degree to which they are useful to our current understanding of the world. And one last thing, can we agree that the gods we have worshipped for the past however many thousands of years, they're starting to outlive their usefulness, and they don't seem as effective at helping us address modern problems and live better lives? Okay, we all on the same page, more or less? Good. I know I took a little bit of a detour there and got off the topic about God being a God of love, but this is sort of laying the groundwork for what I'd like to talk about in the next episode, which is, how do we choose a better God? How do we come up with a concept? It doesn't even have to be a God, but just a worldview that is more nourishing, that enables us to live better lives. How do we play with that? That's what we're going to talk about in our next episode. Okay, that wraps it up for today. I'll be back in a couple of days with part 2 of this episode. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and leave us a review, and pay it forward by sharing this podcast with other people who may benefit. If you have any questions, feedback, or ideas for future topics, email me at drryanlee@drryanlee.com or visit my website at drryanlee.com. Until next time, remember, you are brave. You're strong. You can do this. And you, my friend, are not alone.